Everyone to the June Citizen Involvement Committee meeting. If you haven't already, we ask that you sign in on the back table, and there's comment cards. If you would like to comment on anything on the agenda tonight, we'd need you to fill that out and turn that in to Laura Turway right here. We got new monitors for those that are sitting in front of monitors, and some of them are having technical difficulties, so bear with us if we're having equipment trouble. That's not a norm. So we'll start by having Barbara do the roll call.
Tony Yu. Mark Matheson.
Here.
Linda Basinger.
Present.
Dennis Anderson.
Present.
Mike Mitchell.
Here.
Amy Wilhite.
Here.
Kathy Hogan.
Here.
Tom O'Brien.
Here.
Joyce Gifford.
Here.
Faith Leith.
Here.
Rita Mills. Jesse Buss.
Here. Rita's sick today.
Thank you.
Bob LaSalle.
Here.
Barbara Rinkin. Harris Quinn is excused. Karen Morey.
Here.
Bill McConnell.
Here.
Gary Fergus. And Brian Boyce.
Here.
Welcome, everyone. We have quite a bit on the agenda, so we'll go ahead and get started. The first presentation, we'll turn some time over to Laura to... You ready?
The public comments for items not on the agenda?
Oh, sorry. I just skipping that one.
We have not received any comment
Okay.
cards.
Did anyone have comments on anything not on the agenda? All right. Thank you. Now we'll turn over to Laura.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Laura Turway. I'm a planner with the city. And in the CIC, we wanted to start to give presentations on what we do in the planning division. And today's presentation is on meetings with developers and neighborhood associations, or in this case tonight, the CIC. So what does our code say? What are our expectations at those meetings? It's in chapter 1750-055, which I'm sure everyone has memorized by this point, but it requires that most development go before the neighborhood association for which the development's occurring and meet with the neighborhood association. The purpose of the meeting is intended for the applicant to inform the neighborhood association as well as the public of what they're proposing to do, and to allow an opportunity for the public to tell the developer any of their concerns or questions and voice their concern. There is no requirement that the neighborhood vote in a support or not support or anything like that. There's also no requirement that the developer have their plans finalized or not finalized. It's just sort of an opportunity for the developer to touch base with the neighborhood associations. After they meet with the neighborhood associations, we'll talk about it at a later session, but then the developer would then go on and submit their application to the planning division and go through another public review process. So those same citizens and neighborhood association would have additional time to comment at a later date. So when is a neighborhood meeting required? So it's required for most things. The things that it's not required for is a much shorter list, which basically includes a minor partition. So say if you want to subdivide your property in half, or for a small addition for a commercial building. If you're doing a large addition or a new commercial building, a subdivision, these things that we see frequently, those will all require neighborhood association meetings. Anything that goes to planning commission, city commission, all requires neighborhood association meetings. We do recommend to all applicants that they meet with the neighborhood association no matter how small their project is, but some of them just aren't required to. When someone, like a developer, goes to schedule a meeting with the neighborhood association, our code talks specifically about what those requirements are. So once the neighborhood association receives word that a developer would like to have a meeting, they can hold their meeting within the first 30 days of that notification. If the developer and the neighborhood association say, you know what, we have a meeting coming up in 45 days, let's just wait and do it then, that's okay too. If they wanted to wait longer than 30 days, the developer can choose to hold their meeting on their own. Or if the neighborhood association doesn't want to hold a meeting, they can hold a meeting on their own. One thing that we've heard a lot of questions about lately is what type of meeting does this developer have to come to? The developer is not required to be at a general association meeting. It could be before a steering committee, it could be before whomever. Our code just specifies that it needs to be with the neighborhood association. So if you're a neighborhood association and you want to send notice to everybody, even though it's just a steering committee, you can certainly do that. If the applicant decides to hold their own neighborhood association meeting, then they have to do a couple of things in our code. One is that they have to hold it at night or on the weekends, and it needs to be either within the boundary of the neighborhood association or at a city facility. Also, the applicant would have to send notice, a mailed notice to all property owners within 300 feet. So not necessarily residents, only property owners. You'll see the 300-foot mailing notice because that is what we use to send notification when we have any land use applications. All right, so what happens how do people meet with the CIC, which is what we have tonight after this? Applicants can choose to meet with the CIC in addition to neighborhood association at any time. So if they think that they have a large project, they can certainly meet with you. The only time that the applications are required to meet with the CIC is if they're in a neighborhood association that's not recognized by the city. We don't have any of those right now. Every land area has a neighborhood association that speaks for them inside the city limits. Or if the neighborhood association does not exist or is inactive. So the is inactive part is what we're talking about tonight, which is Tower Vista. Of our 12 neighborhood associations, Tower Vista is the only one which is currently inactive. If anyone here wishes to help be a champion so that they are active again, you can come talk to me afterwards as well or send me an email. So at the neighborhood association meeting, again, it's just meant to be a place where we can sit and have a conversation between the developer and the neighborhood association. The city generally isn't partaking in this conversation. It's just between the two of you. You know, if you have a tree you really like and you ask them to save it, they can save it or they can choose not to, things like that. Again, there is no bearing in the decision or no criteria on if the neighborhood association supported your application or not. So, as I talked about earlier, after this neighborhood association meeting occurs, then they submit an application to the city. The city will not deem the application complete or notify neighbors until this neighborhood association meeting has occurred. So it is the first step before we can have a, quote, complete application or people can move further along in the development review process. We'll talk more about what the development review process is at our next meeting. Are there any questions about the neighborhood meeting? Yes.
Yes, my question is, when a developer wants to come before a neighborhood association or the CIC, and they don't contact the neighborhood until 2 days after the neighborhood has held a meeting, knowing full well that the neighborhoods only meet quarterly for the most part, it's unrealistic to expect that just those people who receive mail notice, those within 300 feet, comprise a understanding of the needs and the desires of the community. As an example, in our Hazel Grove Westling Farms neighborhood, we have 873 homes. If you were to only contact by mail a notice to those within 300 feet, you are in spirit not fulfilling the desire of LCDC that the public be involved in the decision-making process. I would like to see that the developers try to schedule for the meetings that are available rather than being held to a 30-day requirement. It's difficult to get people to schedule with all of the other events and planning that they have with their families. They know the schedule of the neighborhood. They know that it meets 4 times a year on these particular dates. They get those up front, and they put those into their calendar. So those are my comments. I think that we're trying to do what LCDC wants us to do in terms of weighing in on land use issues. And in order to do that effectively, we have to understand the parameters. We don't have the budget to have meetings more frequently than that.
Those are good points. We may want to revisit some of those points when we do our public involvement plan and maybe come up with at least an email list for a neighborhood association so we could at least email people if they're having their own separate meeting or come up with other ways to get them there. All right?
Any other, oh, Jesse.
That's great. Thanks, Laura. You mentioned that there's no requirement for the development plan to be completed by the time of the neighborhood meeting. At least I think I heard you correct on that. Is there any criteria or guidance you can offer on what if they come to the neighborhood and say this is going to be a single-story development, and then between that time of meeting with the neighborhood and submitting the application to the city, it becomes a 5-story building? Would that trigger a requirement to meet again?
If it's substantially different, the city could require another neighborhood association meeting. We've never seen that happen. So I wouldn't, it's not something that is a common occurrence. We have seen developments change and go back to neighborhood associations, but they really haven't changed. You know, it's maybe a window or something like that, or maybe down a lot or up a lot, but nothing of any significance. If it's significant, they would have to come back and have another pre-application conference with us and sort of start over the process. So we've not really seen it occur.
Thank you.
We had, in Gaffney Lane, we had a subdivision proposed. They were going to ask for a zone change too, so they came with the proposal, and the zone change didn't get approved, so then had to come back. So we've seen them come back. Okay, any other questions for Laura? Joyce.
I know that in our neighborhood, when we have developers come and present, and it's normally to the steering committee, but sometimes to the general meetings, is that we always then send the planning department a report from our neighborhood saying these are what we liked about this proposal, these are the things we asked them to consider changing. And so I noticed in your presentation you didn't mention anything about the neighborhood also contacting the planning division, but that is, you know, what we do. And I would hope that you, as your neighborhoods, would. If you do completely approve of the plan, go ahead and let the planning department know that, because, you know, they need to get a feel for what the neighborhood wants. But I think that almost every time we've always had just one little thing. Could you please consider, you know, maybe changing the driveway here or the roadway here, or like what we did up at Black Rock Coffee, could you make a pedestrian Safeway, put that island in the middle? So instead of having to cross 4 lanes of driveway, there's a little safe spot that pedestrians can at least feel like you're not going to get run over walking up Molalla Avenue. So use it. It's a great system I think we have in place.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item, and that's the whole reason we're having this discussion for the Riggs Landing development. So, who is here representing? All right. Are you with AKS Engineering and Forestry? All right. Sorry I didn't introduce myself earlier, but come on up. Yeah. If you would just introduce yourself. Switch back over.
Thank you, Chair Will Height and members of the council and staff. I appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening and talk about the project that we have here before you. This is first time I've been in front of the Citizen Involvement Council. Normally, I've done hundreds of neighborhood meetings, and normally we have them, we either schedule them on their own or we meet directly with the neighborhood association. In this case, the neighborhood association, Tower Vista, is not active, so I talked with Laura and thank you. And she said this is the appropriate way to have our neighborhood outreach for this project, is to meet with you all. So I'm sorry I'm not facing all of you. This is sort of an awkward shape, but I'm speaking to all of you, I guess. And I'm not just very familiar with this clicker, but
It's, I can flip.
I just want to go to the next slide. Well, I
Could
guess
you
I'll
introduce
keep-
yourself to,
Yes, I did. I'm Chris Goodell with AKS
Okay, sorry, we didn't
Engineering.
catch that.
No, it's all right. So, okay, so I've got 2 slides here, and I sent a version over to you, Ms. Wilhite, before, and to Laura, and this is just a cleaned up version of what we had sent before. The application here, there was an aerial photograph up a minute ago that showed the vicinity. Hopefully you're all familiar with the vicinity. There's 3 properties there, totaling approximately 6.25 acre. The site is zoned R6 by the city, so it's
Chris, there are no streets listed on here, so I have no idea where this is.
they're there. It's hard to read. It's on Pease Road on the west side. Pease Road is the main site there, or the main street right there. So we have on the next slide we'll show in just a second. We'll show a little bit more of the street names. But the property is designated R6, and it's about 6.25 acres. It consists of 3 tax lots. There's 2 homes currently on the property. So, Flora, if you could put it to the other, I guess the next slide here. So the project here before you ties into the Pease Road frontage and the road stub from the south, which is Windmill Drive. The application that we're putting together will include 32 individual lots for future single-family detached homes, similar with the surrounding recent developments in that area. The average lot size per the R6 zone is about 6,000 square feet. Some are bigger, some are smaller, which is permitted by the code. We've got a existing house. There's a big lot 10 there, that's going to preserve one of the existing homes on the property. That's the home at, I think it's 19155 Pease Road.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, but sitting in the back, is there a pointer that you could see which lot you're talking about when you're talking about?
there you go.
I can't see that part.
Sure, I've got a pointer too, I guess, either way. So the project, as I mentioned, is a single-family residential subdivision with new public streets. They're going to be 32-foot wide paved streets, curb and gutter for drainage, landscape planters for street trees, and concrete sidewalks on both sides. There'll be frontage improvements on Pease Road, similar to the project to the south, which will include additional paving, a bike lane. I guess to point here, Pease Road, like along this frontage. And so paving, landscape strip, and a 6-foot wide sidewalk. The project will include full underground infrastructure, including sanitary sewer, stormwater, water services, public utilities, including power, telecommunications, etc. The stormwater system will include a stormwater facility, detention and water quality, which is shown in Tract A here. So all the water will be captured in that area, and it'll be detained and treated per city requirements. So with Laura hinted at sort of next steps, and I guess I don't want to steal her thunder from her next presentation, but people are typically interested in these meetings about schedules and stuff like that. So I guess I want to run down next steps real quick here. We're putting together a land use application. We're just in the middle of it now. We've done some surveying, and we're preparing other materials, and those are going to include preliminary civil engineering plans, a written package of information, a traffic study, a preliminary stormwater analysis, and a geotechnical engineering report. All those will be prepared by civil engineers, traffic engineers, or geotechnical engineers. So those will all be pieces of the application that get put together and submitted to the city. The city process varies based on their workload, but it takes generally, I'm going to say, 5 to 6 months to get to a land use decision. From that point forward, what we normally do is prepare final engineering construction plans that get reviewed again by the city, just different staff, not the planning staff, but the engineering staff. And in this case, we would be looking at having those prepared in the fall and permits for construction ready in the spring. So next spring would be sort of the anticipated timeline for site infrastructure construction, with home construction following in the fall, the late summer and fall of next year. As I mentioned, we don't have all neighborhood meetings. We are preliminary just for that reason, so that we can take feedback and input and make adjustments to our plans as needed. So we don't have, like I mentioned, the traffic study and the stormwater analysis and all those pieces of the puzzle here tonight. So I don't have specific answers, but I will answer any questions that I can provide. So I guess that's all I have to say here, I think. Right, so if there's questions, then please ask. And
Okay. I'd remind again, if you have questions, you need to fill out a comment card and turn it into Laura, and then we'll gladly let you come up in the order that we receive the cards. I do have one question right off the bat. Could you tell me, I understand the averaging of the lot sizes, but could you tell me what the smallest size lot is here?
4,800 square feet.
And how many of the 32 lots are going to be under the 6?
I don't know the answer. It's an average over the whole subdivision. So
I
some are
understand,
larger and
but
some, I don't have
You
that.
don't know?
No.
Okay.
I don't think there's a requirement related to how many are
No,
under
there's
over,
not.
yeah.
I just would like to know that, because
Okay.
that's a concern in our neighborhood. We've had where, there's 3 great big ones and everything else is really little, and it looks off. So that's why I had asked that question. Okay. Do you have any cards yet, Laura? Okay.
No,
Right.
we could fill them out after they speak.
Okay, yeah, if you want to fill it out after your comments, I'd like to let you guys go first. What I need you to do is come up to the mic and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Jim Sliker. I live on Swallowtail, Swallowtail Place. And Pease Road runs by us and goes down to Leyland. So my question has a little bit, and you may not have it in your study yet, to do with where is the traffic flow going to go on down Pease Road toward Leyland, and how's that going to affect Leyland and traffic during rush hour? That's a pretty busy road as it is, and it's not a major highway.
Chris, do you have? It looks like on here you have Lucille and then Rogue are the 2 roads that they'll be coming out onto Leland, right?
Would you like to come up to the mic?
He said he hasn't done the traffic study, but those are the 2 roads coming out onto Pease, right?
Right. So Lucille Way, there'll be traffic or cars coming out that access, and then through the south, which is Windmill Drive, connects to I can't remember the name of the street there to the south, but so there's 2 different ways.
something.
Yeah, Rogue River. Yeah, Rogue River Way. So it'll be one of those 2 access points to Pease.
Does Windmill Drive then go down somewhere else, or does that dead end down
It's
farther?
further south. If you look at the aerial, you can.
Can I pull that up? So there are.
Where's Pease and Leyland? Where does that connect?
Here's Pease, here's Windmill. Leland is right up here, at the very top corner.
Way up there, okay. All right.
Is
So-
that cul-de-sac that's Meadow Lawn
Correct.
in between that?
So it's going to be a lot of traffic additionally on Pease running into Leyland,
Either Leland or McCord.
right?
Maybe I can clarify here just a little bit. So we just completed the Lynn-Leland corridor plan, which has improvements along, which calls for particular kind of road improvements along Leland Avenue in this section right here. So majority of this traffic is likely going to be going north, and there may be some that head south as well, but I think the traffic you're concerned about is heading north of the site. So Pease Road is has got a variety of road sections to it. I would say it's one of those roadways that we didn't do a corridor plan on. We have worked more recently at trying to stay at least consistent with the through lanes, and the bike lanes. And, there's some that have curb extensions along Pease Road, some that the curbs in a place where there's on-street parking and another place where it's not. So Pease is my least favorite road in Oregon City. How's that? When it comes to curb alignments. So staff is well aware of that, and we're working to do the best we can with the previous developments to try to maintain good flow through Pease Road. Leland Road, like I said, that corridor plan, there's no certainty on when that timing will happen, but the idea at Pease and Leland would be that roadway would include sidewalks on both sides of the street, planter strips, bike lanes, and wouldn't allow for on-street parking. So that's a corridor plan that the city just adopted. It's available online if you want to look at it, and that's consistent with our transportation system plan. But there's definitely not plans for wider boulevards with more lanes.
So that Leyland extends and goes down the hill. It twists and turns. There's a lot of accidents on that hill. Now we're going to have increased traffic there. And then it goes on down and eventually ends out, well, people end up going down to Washington and on down to the railroad tracks there by the coffee shop on the main street. And that gets really congested, and that's going to cause increased traffic down on that four-way corner next to Dutch Brothers.
You're right. I think as the city continues to grow and add development, we're going to see some solutions that may make it similar or maybe even a little better, but then there's going to be other places where we're just going to have more congestion.
Yeah.
Thanks.
All right. Anyone else from the audience want to have some questions or comments? Okay. We'll just start with you, Mike.
Thanks. First off, just a couple of things that I think would be helpful on these things that either come to the neighborhood association and us. One would be if around the edges, if it showed existing streets so that we can see how the connections work a little more clearly. And the other thing that would be helpful is if the zoning on all four sides around was spelled out so we knew how it would fit into the zoning. Just a couple of suggestions. Two comments. And I know it's in our code, but it doesn't seem to me when the developer at their decision decides to leave a large lot that they would be able to use that and thereby average down the lot size of some of the other lots in order to get the number of houses they want. I understand sometimes some lots have to be smaller than we might want because of existing streets or just the dimensions or whatever. But in this case, they've clearly decided to keep that one large lot because they're going to keep an existing home, probably where the property owner lives. But I don't think they should be able to then use that to average down the other lot size, if you know what I mean. The main thing I want to point out, and if we can go to the subdivision map and the red pointer, lots 17 and 18 and 20 and 21. And I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit because it's happening in my backyard right now. When you've got a back property line and a side property line, lots 17 and 21, the side setback is 5 feet. Houses 18 and 20 are going to be looking at the side of a house 5 feet from their fence. It's 5 feet from me to this lady that's sitting right here, more or less. So imagine a two-story house, 23, 24, 25 feet tall. I'm standing in my yard, and that wall's right there. It's happening today to me and to 4 of my neighbors with 3 houses going in. One's already occupied, 3 are built. 5 feet. Those side yard to backyard alignments are horrible for the neighbors. 5 feet away, and I'm looking at a 24-foot wall. My backyard's going to be in the shade in the winter. The back of my house is now going to be in the shade in the winter where we've had sun before because all of a sudden I've got a 25-foot wall. If those kind of things can be avoided, it's horrible. I'm off my soapbox.
Thanks, Mike.
So the making a larger lot and then making smaller lots, just to clarify, is that they can't make a lot as small as they'd like. Our code allows in a zone for the lot to be reduced by 10%, or I'm sorry, 20%, as long as when you take all of them together, it still averages 6,000. So you're not getting more lots you're working within that framework that's identified in the code for lot sizes that are acceptable in each zone.
Yeah, but Dave, how big is lot 10?
It can't be larger than twice the underlying zone. So if you're 6,000 square feet, you can't be more than 12,000 square feet, because then you'd be able to partition it again.
It appears that it is.
That's why we do a pre-app, and that's why we go through this process. So it's not like they could be in R6 and have a bunch of 3,000 square foot lots, I guess is what I'm saying, is that there is a minimum set.
No, but they might be able to have more 4,800 square foot lots.
But it gets offset by lots that are larger.
What I'm saying is they shouldn't be able to offset with a lot that they decided to make
17.5. Almost 3
I
times as
understand
large.
that it happens because of the physical dimensions, and you gotta get streets in, and, curb widths and all of that, and, setbacks and so forth. But anyway.
I think that's why it would have been nice, like Mike said, to have the zoning around it, because it's hard when if you're up against an R8 or R10, and then you're seeing these little lots, that's when that sometimes come into play. I mean, you're not obligated to do any different, but it's just that's a concern that comes up, I think. Okay, Brian?
Yeah, I just had a hopefully simple question. Is what's the topography up there? Is that in the flatlands or is there a slope?
Yeah.
It's flat. It's fairly level.
Kathy?
Okay, my question is this going to require a detention pond to mitigate any of the water issues or runoff on the property when you do this?
Yes, we have a stormwater facility planned in Tract A, which is that guy.
Oh, okay. I can't read it.
Yeah, it was.
What is your proposed cost for this? Will this be above the average prices of the homes there, or is this going to be lower than? Is this going to bring the value up in that neighborhood or down with having 30-some homes built in?
It's hard to say what the prices of homes will be in the future, but they'll be on par with similar developments in the area for new homes. So.
Tom?
Yes, I had a question. First off, we've had a lot of problems in the newer neighborhoods with street trees and planter strips. What will be the width of the planter strips?
They'll meet the city standard. I don't know if it's 6 foot or 5 foot, but we also put in root guards against the tree trunks that are fairly substantial, so they help with the uplift of the sidewalks. Is that the problem you're talking about?
That's one of the problems. The other problem is that there's no inspections being done relative to how the trees are planted. They can plant them close to the surface and the roots find their way, all sorts of directions. Just as a follow-up with Mike's question there, I have a comment. It appears in looking at Lot 10 that it is almost 3 times the 6,000 square foot size at 17,509. So it's not within the confines of what we're...
I was unaware of that requirement, so we can add more to Lot 11 and make lots 8 and 9 bigger or whatever it is, if that is the true rule.
So I think I was recalling a partition requirement versus a subdivision requirement. So remember we may have partitions are 3 or less, subdivisions are 4 or more. So I think Laura was just pointing out in the code where it's based on the original parcel size of how many lots you're allowed to put on a property. So let's say you're R10 and you have 1 acre. You get 4.4 units per acre. So I misspoke when it relates to subdivisions. You could have a larger lot. If they were ever to come back in and try to partition that property, they'd have to demonstrate that they're not exceeding the zoning, the allowed number of homes that would have been on that property.
In this instance, you have 3 lots
potentially
that
it could be partitioned into, right? And And we haven't done the work on this yet to know, at 6.25 acres at R6, once you take out all the right-of-ways, you get X number of units. Let's say it's 12, and they have one large lot that could be partitioned into 3, so then all of a sudden they'd have 14, but they would be exceeding the zoned capacity of the lot. So just a little bit of a clarification there, the differences between partitions and subdivisions that we run into.
And there isn't a requirement of how many can be under, okay, because if I'm counting it right, it looks like 24 of the 32.
Right. It's based on taking all of them, adding them together, dividing it by the total number, and if that's more than 6,000, it's met.
I understand. That's a huge concern in our neighborhood too. Jesse?
Thank you. And Tony, this is a clarifying question for you based off of that. Let's assume that Lot 10 is 18,000 square feet.
Okay.
3 6,000 square foot lots. In 20 years, assume the comp plan is the same, zoning laws are the same. That lot owner wanted to split it into 3 lots. Would they have to then go and apply for rezoning first?
They modify the subdivision is what we call it, because you have once it gets through engineering, if they're successful at that, essentially this gets recorded with the county as, Tony's subdivision. It has a name associated with it, and all these lots are then created out of those 3 original ones. And so you would have to come back and modify that plat through the land use process. So some unknowns there. Realistically, it's not a zone change. It's modifying the subdivision approval.
Would that trigger, under current rules, a CIC meeting or a neighborhood association meeting?
A neighborhood association meeting is not required for a partition, and it is required for subdivisions. CIC meeting is also not required in either case. If there is a zone change, then both would be, then a neighborhood association meeting would be required.
If they're just applying for a variance, they wouldn't have to go to the neighborhood.
Well, variance wouldn't be applicable here. A lot of hypotheticals. But
Sure. Thanks, Tony.
Karen?
I have a non-working screen. Just curiosity, because when I first looked at this, what I thought I saw was a flag lot, and welcome to the red flags.
Yeah.
I like the detention pond, but the little flag piece, is that paved access? Okay.
We'll want to look at the detention pond and the access piece too. I'll tell you that much right now.
Joyce?
So, Tony, if I'm hearing you right, that if because of the size and the zoning, that only 32 lots would be allowed for the R6 in this size, they would never be able to then subdivide Lot 10.
Right.
If they took the
so
entire...
if you had
right.
1 acre, right, and you're zoned R10, you could have...
No, it's zoned R6.
Well, okay, so...
Okay, so let's only talk R6, because that's
so
what
you
we're...
could have 7-point-some units per acre.
And there's 6-something acres.
So you could never exceed...
You could never have 9 on that piece of property.
Okay.
On
All
1
right.
acre.
If they got the most units that they could on this property, none of it
Well,
could
3
be
times
subdivided.
9, last I heard, was 27, so why do they have 32?
Okay, hold.
Oh, no, 'cause
I'm
he's got more
comparing
than
it to
that.
1
Okay,
acre.
all right,
1
right.
acre. We haven't done any of the math on this, so
Okay.
just
But
trying to give
saying
examples.
that if they did max it out, they would not be able to subdivide
Correct.
or partition Lot 10.
That's correct. There's no loopholes.
But at this point, nobody's done the math, and we don't even know, or ask the developer, have you guys done the math and figured out exactly how many lots you can put on this property?
Yes, we have done the math, and this is about max density right here.
This is max density, so 10 is not going to be partitioned.
Yeah, my understanding all along is that it couldn't. I don't know. I can't remember how the city implements it, but we've done this on other projects too, where we've actually had some larger lots that were able to be subdivided later because they were under density, and then in some cases we've had it where it's like this, where you can't. So I don't know what mechanism there is, but
the other thing that would happen here is, remember, you've got that large lot is helping with their lot averaging. So if you add 2 more lots and now they're all 6,000, you're going to drive that average lot size down underneath the requirement of the code. So you have 2 mechanisms there. You have the zoning and then the lot sizing. So we look at both of those if someone were to come in at a later date to try to partition Lot 10.
Thank you.
Mark?
Does your numbers include public utility? These numbers here are just plain lots without any roads, any kind of right-of-way? So does your math include or exclude the public?
Excludes all that.
So when you do include it, what's it come out to be?
We won't let you include it.
Pardon?
The city will not let them include the right-of-way. It gets dedicated to the city. They can't count the square footage.
Okay. So it gets subtracted from the total lot. All right.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, I appreciate it again.
Yeah. And we'll send you a copy of the minutes I think you need.
That would be great, yeah.
Did you get a copy of the postcard?
I didn't get a postcard.
Okay.
Laura sent me this, so.
Okay.
So when the applicant submits their application, they have to provide a summary of what was talked about, and then the sign-in sheet.
Right, and we usually send that to them.
This up here.
So just a kind of refresher, so this was an example of a neighborhood association meeting that would occur. So now what will happen is an application could have already been submitted to the city, but we wouldn't deem it complete until the neighborhood association meeting occurred, or they may not have yet, and they're still deciding whether they want to submit. But, so this requirement's been met tonight. So they can submit the application, we review it for whether all the information required by the municipal code is in the application. Once we make a determination that that has been met, we send out public notice again to everybody within 300 feet, post the property with land use notification signs, and notify the neighborhood association, and then that's when official comments come in addressing the approval criteria that then get put into the record, which is part of the staff decision. So you really get, the neighborhood association is a good way to be informed that there is a development occurring and potentially occurring, and then the official notice is once the application is underway and being reviewed. So there's that two-step process.
We also post all application materials on our website under the planning division at orcity.org, and we email all land use applications for public notification to all neighborhood association chairs and the CIC chair. We didn't used to, but we're doing now.
So if there's anyone here from the Tower Vista neighborhood that would like to help us get it restarted, that would be great. If you're on Next Door Neighbor for Tower Vista, I also chair the Gaffney Lane Neighborhood Association, and I do post things frequently on Nextdoor, and I try to include all the neighborhoods around me, and I believe Tower Vista. So if you've seen any from Amy Wilhite, that's me. So hopefully you would see that there too, to know that that's where the process is. But you'll also see the blue signs starting to go up, and if you live within 300 feet, you'll get a postcard.
Or you can sign up for our RSS feed on our website.
Okay.
Or call us.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks again.
And then as a side note, there's no association with Katie Riggs.
No.
Called Riggs Landing.
Oh.
Wondering if that would come up.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Silent investor.
Oregon City Farmers Market.
That's my first question.
Was it?
Should have gone, wasn't it?
To make sure. Do we have something for presentation?
No.
No? Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for inviting me to come and talk tonight. I got a call from Laura, and it's because it's my favorite topic of conversation. So if you go like that, I'll know I've gone on for too long. I'm here to give an update on the farmers market.
Will you introduce yourself for those that don't know you?
Jackie Hammond-Williams. I'm the manager of the Oregon City Farmers Market and have been for 8 years. I was one of the founders. I've been on the board. My little farm is still a vendor at the market, and I've been managing it for 8 years. I've also lived in Oregon City for 25 years in the Park Place neighborhood. So I'm here today because two reasons. We have reached our 10-year milestone. We were founded in 2005, and now it is 2015, and none of us can really remember it's been that long. So we started at the county site in 2005, and it actually was a germ of an idea that came from the county commissioners at the time. They had just finish the new campus up on the hill. And they wanted to have an event there that would bring people to the site to welcome them to the new county buildings. And I do believe, this is all hearsay, but I do believe they were sitting around saying that what about a farmer's market? That would add, you know, value to the agricultural products of Clackamas County. It would give a showcase for them. Why don't we start that? So my neighbor and I were one of two ladies that got the initial phone call about starting a farmer's market. And I said, that sounds great. I might come to a couple of meetings, but I really don't want to get involved. That was 10 years ago. And I have to say that not only the county, but the city was on board right at the beginning. In fact, the Parks and Recs department at that time developed our very first logo, which was a radish. And we had the radish for quite a few years, and then we graduated up to a tractor. And I also want to interject here that working with city departments has been a breeze and wonderful, and our relationship has always been very positive, and they have always been extremely supportive, and we are very grateful to Public Works and the Planning Department. And any time we've had to interact with the city departments, it's been wonderful. So we had 5 years of uptown markets, and then 5 years ago we approached the city and did a conditional use permit to start some downtown markets. One was a Wednesday market, one was a winter market. Knowing that it's our 10-year anniversary, we took a deep look at the market infrastructure, our organization, our resources recently this winter, and decided that from now on we're going to run a year-round Saturday market, but we were going to nix the little Wednesday market. And that's what it was. It never really would get any bigger. Midweek markets by definition are small. It was increasingly difficult to get customers to it and from it during the week because of the traffic build-up downtown. And we decided that if we were going to nix one of them, that would be the one to go. So, and then more recently, since we've had the winter market downtown this past winter, which actually was incredibly successful, has really built strong and solid. Twice we got over 1,000 customers to it. We absolutely filled the street several times with vendors, and we had nowhere to grow. So again, on hindsight, and with a lot of sort of agonizing and board meetings, we decided that we would move out of downtown completely and run our market Saturdays through the year uptown on the county site. It does make sense. It has a lot of parking, beautiful close parking, and a lot of resources that we can use, such as space. So, you know, we can have porta potties there, we can have trash, which we could never have downtown. We also have ample parking, and we can grow and contract as much as we want throughout the whole year. We approached the county. They said that because we had kept such great care of the site over these years, they would be very willing to lend it to us for the whole year. So this year, instead of running 58 markets, thank goodness, we're going to be running 39. And yours truly is very happy with that, because it was quite a lot to do to us a week in the summer. So what are the stats on the market? What do we do at the market? How many people do we see? Well, believe it or not, conservatively, we see between 54 and 57,000 shoppers annually. So that's not individually different people. Obviously, that's the same people, but that's the kind of volume. We get between 1,700 and 2,500 at the Saturday market, and this past Saturday we did in fact hit that 2,500 shopper mark. It was a really booming market. In 2012, we had a study done on it called a seed study, and this was piloted by the National Farmers Market Coalition. They brought in a group, came up actually from New Orleans. We ran this full-on study of the market on the financial impact to the surrounding community, and we were absolutely blown away by the $3.4 million result. And I thought, couldn't be. So I have a professor down at OSU that I work pretty closely with, Larry Lev. He's a professor of agriculture down there. And he took the study and released it to the statisticians that work at OSU, and they really studied this study. And they said, it might be a little overblown, but definitely your impact is 2 million plus. So that's the kind of impact we do have on the community. We operate with a 6-member board plus myself. It's usually 6, 7, 8 maximum. We meet very regularly and very strictly once a month for 2 hours. And we discuss every little bit about the market. We have financial reports, etc. So what is at the market? Obviously, you've probably all been, and you know there's fresh produce, mainly from Clackamas County. I will interject here also that we do farm visits. So when you see a farmer's farm at the market, you might see what you consider to be sellers or employees, and you might have a little germ of doubt in your mind that that's actually the farm. But it is, because I go out and I visit all the farms. But where do farmers want to be? They want to be back on their farm. They don't want to be selling. So often they do hire people to sell their product. In fact, our market is really lucky because we do actually have a lot of farmers at the market, so you can come and meet your farmer. We have seafood, fresh seafood, pastured meats, eggs, artisan foods, baked goods, nut butters, wild mushrooms. We've now got beers, wines. We have flowers, plants, woodcrafts, ceramics, recycled glass, art, hot food, the best ice cream in the world, fruit smoothies, coffee, and of course live music, and often we bring in choirs too, like we did last Saturday. So the programs we run are quite a few, in fact, and varied. We are a 501c3. We were designated that about 6 years ago. That's a very rare designation for a farmer's market. I think there's maybe one other in the metro area, and I don't know very many in the whole US. And the reason the IRS gave us this designation was because we do so much education. And we're not really formed for the good of business, but for the good of the community and for this educational component. So our programs number about 4 or 5. We have the SNAP program. This is the food stamp program. We do accept food stamps. We have pretty much always accepted food stamps. We're one of the first markets in the metro area, in fact, to get the federal designation as a farmer's market that could take SNAP or the food stamp. We actually can provide $5 stipend to every shopper for free who comes with a food card. So in other words, how this works is they'll come up and say, I would like to purchase $10 on my food stamp card of tokens that I will then use at the vendor's booths. So when they buy $5 or more from us, we match that with $5 free, which is great. I mean, it gives them a nice dozen eggs, quite a large bag of produce, and they're very happy. This is funded through grants, and we get grants regularly from New Seasons, Providence Willamette Falls, and the Rotary Club Foundation of Oregon City. A lot of people get a little, sometimes a little itsy about food stamps. Well, it's those freeloaders and blah, blah, blah. But I will tell you that the vast majority of these people on food stamps are our seniors. And they not only come to get fresh, healthy food, which keeps them healthy longer, but they do come for the community and the camaraderie, and a lot of them are quite lonely, and they see us as kind of family. So it gives us a good feeling to be able to help them. We give out about $5,000 in match money each year. And next year I'm working with a group of farmers markets in the metro area. We've got together and actually submitted a federal grant. And if we get this big federal grant, we'll be able to match it by $10, which we're super excited about. The other program we do is called the POP Club. That's the Para Produce Club for Kids. That is also a grant-funded program. It's funded by Clackamas County Soil and Water Conservation District that see the direct connection between kids shopping, us giving them money to shop at the market. We provide this $2 to them, but they can only use it for fresh fruits and vegetables or food plants. So this money comes through us into the pockets of the children, helps them to realize where their food's coming from, to taste fresh, healthy foods that they might not otherwise taste, get excited about eating vegetables, and then that money flows straight through them into the pockets of our local farmers, who then come back into town and spend it in our community. So it's a lovely closed circle. Bob's Red Mill help us with that, On Point Community Credit Union, and a lot of private donations. We approximately get, for the last 5 years, pretty close to 1,500 kids sign up. The school district's wonderful. They allow me to go into schools and give presentations directly to the kids, and then right after those presentations, the very next Saturday, all the kids come running in all excited. And now that program has actually gone national, and pretty much every week I'm helping another market across the United States somewhere start their own pop club. It did receive national recognition in 2011 and has even gone up as far as into Canada now. So that little pop club that came from the Oregon City Farmers Market is throughout the United States and even up into our northern neighbors. So we have a lot of events. Opening day, OSU Extension Forestry Service come and always give out hundreds, if not thousands, of little free trees. May saw our pollinator fair. This was the first one we've ever done, but it was super fun, and we had experts on bees and mason bees and monarch butterflies, and the kids were enthralled. June we'll see our householding fair, which is kind of like urban homesteading on your city lot. July, we're going to have a Vintage Vibes and Crafty Creations Fair, so anyone vintagey or crafty out there can apply. August is our Senior Day, when we bring in a lot of groups that support seniors, and we have a lot of drawings and raffles, and the seniors really enjoy that day. And then in October, we have cider pressing. Really, we do it for the kids, but I think the adults get more joy out of it than anything. So, and we have this big old wooden press, and we take the cider and we heat it and give it out. This year I've worked with the OLCC, and we've actually got our own beer garden. So we're still, working on the aesthetics of that. But volunteers, I do want to give a shout out to the volunteers. This would not happen, no matter for all my efforts, my board's efforts. We would not have a farmers market if it hadn't been for thousands of hours over the 10 years of volunteers. And I can't stress that enough. Some of the volunteers that you will see every Saturday have been with us for 7 years. Unbelievable. But we have so much fun and they enjoy it that they want to come back. 20 hours a day it takes of volunteer hours to set up that market and keep it running. So you may see me, but there's a whole army behind me of people that are doing great work. So our long-term plan, which we're very much focused on, is we really would like to find at some point a designated site. We love the county site, but it is very exposed. We don't have power, so we have to bring in a generator. We bring in our porta potties and our trash. But at some point, our goal, our vision, our dream is to have a designated site in this city to really expand and grow this market. I anticipate being at one site now for the winter, we will actually have more winter markets. Right now, we're every week through the summer, May through October, 9 to 2. But in the winter, we back off a little bit and we have it every other week through the winter, 10 till 2. But I think being in one site, particularly if we ever can get this designated site with some shelter and power and bathrooms and storage, that we could probably open up this market and run every single Saturday through the whole year. So not only are we bringing fresh, healthy food to the community, but I think our education has a great impact, and I also think we're building a wonderful community. We kind of see ourselves as the town square, and we do offer a lot of nonprofits free space, including the Juvenile Corrections Farm that comes, Green Corps Farm, wonderful kids, and the county has a farm up there on the site. They harvest it, and it couldn't have been brought closer. I mean, it's so local, it's literally a few hundred yards. So I thank you for this opportunity to bring you an update. And are there any questions? Miss Kathy?
I just want to commend you on what you're doing. Phil Stock and Phil Hart has used the Green Corps kids, and they're wonderful kids. They asked to come to help Phyllis Stocking. We did the bingo, and they have a great time. We feed them, and they are hungry kids, believe me. And they're going to help us for the Taste of Clackamas, our fundraiser down at Abernathy Center on December 3rd. So, you guys
Kathy, is this about the market?
But this is about what they do for these kids, and it is wonderful. It really is wonderful.
Yeah, it's a great program, and we've partnered with them for years.
I think the market does wonderful.
Thank you.
Bob?
Jackie, I wonder if you could tell us about the wheelchair escapee from the beer garden?
Well, Well, this is a funny story. The first time we opened up the beer garden, we found that there was quite a lot of older gentlemen in wheelchairs that really, really liked this beer garden. And I think probably they had kind of escaped out of whatever home they were from. And anyway, no, they're wonderful. And but one guy did actually escape, and he had to be in the certain designated area. So I went after him and I said to him, "Sir, is that a beer in your hand?" And he said, "What if it is?" And I said, "Well, it's not allowed. You have to go back where you're supposed to." And he said, "Well, are you going to make me? And who are you, the beer monitor?" And we had a fun interaction, but it was he did get smartly escorted back and told he had to stay there and he could not roam freely with a beer. But we're working on training, and we'll get there. We'll get there. But I did forget, and I won't go on any longer, but I did forget that we also partner greatly with Extension. We have Master Gardener workshops for 3 months every morning on different aspects of food growing. We have the Master Food Preservers. We got a HEAL grant from the county, so now we're doing cooking demos every single Saturday at 11. So there's a lot going on up there. If you just think it's all about vegetables, you're wrong. There's just a lot of things happening, and we enjoy it.
Oh, yeah. Karen has her name card up.
And I also want to thank Jackie, as she mentioned about the space for nonprofits. The Friends of the Library Bookstore has a space every week. They set up the tent for us and take it down, which means I can use a variety of volunteers to staff it. It's great exposure for us. We meet new customers. And I am happy to hear that you're working on the aesthetics at the beer garden. What looked like leftover plastic Hawaiian lays draped around it was a little off-putting the first week.
I'm sorry, but it is run by guys. So us women in the market. I know. But it's true, you know. It's outnumbered here. We need to get a little bit prettiness going.
Thank you, Jackie. Are you going to leave some of those bookmarks for us, or okay?
There's actually 2 sets. One of the activities, one with all the events and the Master Gardener workshop, and then the other one is the general information. Maybe you can pass them
We'll put them in the back if anybody would like to grab them.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, Jackie, thank you for the comments about Public Works.
Thank you.
I really love your cross street banners now.
Yes.
They're beautiful.
New ones are gorgeous.
Speaking of Public Works, John, you're up.
So I'm feeling a little sheepish because I hopped on the printer to print these double-sided, and I realized as I was looking at this thick section of paper that I actually didn't do that. So unfortunately, I'm wasting paper tonight, but I'm going to go ahead and
So
hand
take
these
2
out.
pages.
Yeah, so take the first and second page and then pass it around. So I'm not going to talk about that just yet. I wanted to mention to you a couple things with regard to City Commission and some of the things we're doing in Public Works. There's a variety of projects that have been awarded that I'll talk about because they're one of the handouts. But things I wanted to mention is we did the second reading. I mentioned that Leland Lynn Myers Road Corridor Plan. So the City Commission adopted that. We've reported that before in the past. So I just wanted to reiterate the fact that we now have a corridor plan that includes the 5-legged roundabout at Warner Parrott, Warner Milne, Lynn, Leland, Central Point Road intersection. So that's still played out to be the best alternative for that intersection. Still no word on funding for those projects, but it's an approved corridor plan, and I just noticed some of the criteria for some of the transportation funding options that are coming forth, and approved under a local corridor plan was one of the criteria that was used. So I think we're headed in the right direction. The other thing the City Commission approved was the second reading of our stormwater standards. So things like this development, I don't know if they'll fall under those new standards because there's 90 days by which those standards before they'll actually be implemented. So they were adopted at the May 20th meeting. 90 days thereafter is when they'll actually be applicable. So if these folks have submitted, they wouldn't apply under they wouldn't be required to meet those new standards. But But the new standards are on their way. This upcoming meeting, we're going to be awarding more projects, which I'll talk about, but in a minute. But the other thing that I wanted to mention is this group in the past has always appreciated hearing about significant fleet purchases, and we'll be purchasing, or assuming the city commission approves it, a new street sweeper. So that's one of those vehicles that the community typically appreciates when they see it in their neighborhood. So we get a lot of use out of our street sweepers. In fact, so much use that they're pretty heavy with regard to maintenance requirements. They wear out pretty quickly. So we're buying a new one a little earlier than we planned to buy it. But they're nice once you get them, get the new ones. So our street sweeper operator, I know, is going to enjoy that for at least a year, and then he'll probably retire on us. So. And Bob LaSalle, I'm not sure if you're going to talk about it, but I wanted to mention that at the next meeting you're going to be giving your annual report. So are you going to be talking about that today, or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
So really, I think the main message there is we're going to talk about our accomplishments and some of our goals. And one of our goals is a safety program, and a safety program that's focused on slowing neighborhood traffic. So while the Transportation Advisory Committee is taking the lead on that effort, it's my understanding they're interested in community input. So we're talking about what that message might look like, how to find out from the neighborhood. I talked to our other Bob
Baloney?
Mahoney the other day, and thank you for that. I was encouraging him. The research shows that the programs that are most effectively aren't necessarily staff driven or staff ideas. They come from the community, and so I was telling Bob, we really do need to kind of rally the CIC, because to have a safety committee that's effective, lots of times it comes out of the school district. So the school kids can participate, but what I've heard from the TAC is that they definitely want to champion this. The police department is talking about safety as well, so they're a partner. And I just encourage you, if you're interested in that, let Bob or I know, and we'll rally you in the effort to kind of get that up to speed. It's not going to happen overnight, definitely. It's going to be a little while. So with that, I'll move on to the handout that I just handed out. Let's see, you've got it up on the screen for me as well. So the Myers Road Extension Alternatives page is a aerial map that has some various colored lines on it. It's focused on the area around the community college and the Oregon City High School, with the two major roads that you're all familiar with, Beaver Creek Road and Highway 213. And I apologize for some of the colors. They didn't copy as well. There's a lot going on here, but some of the colors show the proposed alignment or preferred alignment for Myers Road in light blue. The red squares are the power line towers. The purple lines represent the roads within the community college. The kind of the green swath is more like wetlands and natural resource areas. Then there's a dark green line. That's a very conceptual alignment for Loader Road. The key piece to that is showing that Loader Road will, or High School Lane will eventually be the new Loader Road, and it'll connect from Beaver Creek Road down to Glen Oak Road. So not only at some point in the future will you see Myers Road connect from Myers Road to Myers Road, but you'll see Loader Road connect from its near its cross location at Beaver Creek and come around and through the high school property to make that yet another neighborhood connection. A couple other things. The community college has a connecting street that would come off of the new Myers Road. It's shown in red. And there's also the shared use path that we've talked a lot about with regard to how to make that connection work. Our transportation system plan shows it coming from Myers Road and making its way over to Loader Road, and then it would be transitioned through the Beaver Creek concept area. And so we're basically showing that shared use path coming up from near Myers Road and Highway 213 and connecting with the community college's College Loop Trail. And at this point, we know we need to get it that far, and at some point in time, as Loader Road develops, figure out the best alignment to get that pathway reconnected with Loader Road. So again, this is a concept plan. I think it's got a lot of potential to be, I don't know if the right word's attractive, but maybe moving for those who review applications for federal or state funding, because you've got the community college, you've got the school district, you've got the parks, you've got the city, you've got really a neighborhood. Caulfield neighborhood is very interested in seeing that connection completed. And then I suspect, let's see, I think Caulfield is on the west side of 213, or is there another neighborhood that splits that at 213?
Gaffney comes up to, what's the name of that? It comes up past Caulfield. We're on the, whatever, I don't know my north-south.
It's possible that Gaffney Lane kind of touches that.
We don't cross 213, but we're
right there.
213 is the boundary.
Yeah. So, it'd be nice to say we have support from your neighborhood as well, right? The
That would be nice.
Gaffney Lane neighborhood.
I'll wait till I see the final.
The other
I drive
thing-
this every day. I really have an interest.
Yeah. Well, I think especially once the school district develops their transportation facility at the intersection of what would be Myers Road and Loader Road. The other little thing is there's a section shown in the upper right-hand corner, and what we're showing there is some on-street parking, definitely 6-foot bike lanes, and then what we're calling a 3-foot buffer to it would be a striped buffer that would separate the through traffic from the bike lane. And so you're seeing more and more of that kind of thing around the metro area, so it just makes it that much safer for bicyclists. Unfortunately, the other segment of Myers Road is what was of the standard at the time it was built, but it's just got 6-foot bike lanes, no buffer. So, and there's definitely stormwater swales along the edge of the road, and there's still a sidewalk. So that's the update for Myers Road, and we're about halfway through the process of actually completing the study, so that then we can move through the land use approval process. So let us know if you've got questions or concerns about that one. You don't have to do it right now. The second page is just a spreadsheet of some of the projects that we talked about. The Settlers Point Sewage Pump Station, that project was awarded several months ago. It's mostly a project that's internal to the facility, so most of you don't even know where the pump station is. It's kind of hidden away anyway. And then all the work is mostly going to happen inside of the existing walls. So, but that's a project out there. 14th Street storm drain improvements, we just awarded that project, and it's basically going to take the stormwater away from an area that's got a lot of slide potential and
Where
has
on
had some
14th?
slide. It's near Jackson, 14th near Jackson. It's in the McLaughlin neighborhood. The Coffee Creek culvert replacement, that's in the Kenema neighborhood. So I think we've been to the Kenema neighborhood to present that in the past, not recent past. So we did bid opening, and we're going to, or we're scheduled to do bid opening, and we'll be awarding that in first part of July.
What all does that entail?
It entails there's a large culvert that crosses, I want to say 3rd and, it's not Blanchard, it's the next one over.
Hedges? No.
Hedges, yeah. 3rd and Hedges, and it basically, there's the old historic gun shop that's right there on the corner, for those of you that know that area. Well, the corrugated metal culvert goes under that building, and has for years. It's been running just fine for years, but the whole bottom end of that culvert has rusted out, and it's deteriorated to a condition that's not very good. Still holds water and still moves water, but we'd like to replace it with something better and get it out from under the structure there. So we'll be taking a large diameter pipe, about a block and a half, and getting it tied back into the stone. That Coffee Creek's kind of unique through Kenema. It's got a variety of stone channels and stone culverts, and we're going to tie back into that system, and then it will continue on down the stream like it always has.
Have the improvements further up caused additional volumes coming through that creek bed?
You mean has residential
when they
development
diverted to the pipe up above South End Hill? It seems like there's a straight chute down now into the area that you're referring to, where the stones kind of direct things.
Yeah. I think most of that development happened in the 80s, and they didn't have stormwater standards like we have today, so there's not a lot of detention up there. So yes, is a short answer. Yes, we've got higher flows. Today's development, we typically see better management of stormwater. So while the volume is there, you don't see a huge hit from
I was
the
wondering if some baffling would at least slow it down a little bit.
Well, that stream corridor is our steepest stream corridor. It's, as you know, it drops off the slope there at South End, and it pretty much follows that similar kind of grade almost all the way down to this point. It's very steep creek. So I don't know about baffling. That might cause some real problems there.
May I ask a question about Coffee Creek, where it dumps into the Willamette? Have you done any paving down there? Was it you, the city, who did some paving down there, where Coffee Creek dumps into the Willamette?
Not that I know of, but it may have been. Is it a lot of paving, or is it a small amount? I mean,
It's just a small amount. And
it's probably. It may have been Eric Hand's crew that went and did something down there, paving or concrete work. I'm not sure, but they didn't share that detail with me.
Okay.
Can I ask a question too? I was going up South End above Kenema, and they were cutting a tree out of in there. Do you know anything about that? There was, it was pulled off, but I had to go in oncoming traffic going up the hill, and they had a red rope around it, and there was like 3 guys with the truck, and they looked like they were going to cut a tree down or something.
I wish I knew every detail of what we were doing around town, but it sounds like something that was more of a response to maybe a fallen tree limb or a fallen tree than it does if it was on South End Hill. We don't have an active tree cutting plan on South End.
Yeah, and I didn't know, because that is an active landslide. Because I see like 7,
Yeah.
falling in. So, and I thought, is it a bad tree? Is it one that's going to fall? And do they mitigate that to try to keep that hillside still there? Or I'll have to drive faster up here to get past it when it happens.
Yeah, I think we're watching the slide activity. Doesn't sound like what you're talking about is what
it was a little
has anything to do with the okay. 12th and Main Street sanitary sewer. That's our first moratorium project. So we've got more to come on that, but we've got that project's out to bid, and we'll expect that one to close soon. And then our 2015 roadway reconstruction and preventative maintenance projects, which I brought maps, but I remember handing them out last time, didn't I?
Yes.
So-
We emailed them to the group as well.
Okay, so I don't need to hand those out. And then Center Street, right out here in front of City Hall between 5th and 7th, we've got a lot of water and stormwater work to do out there in preparation for the pavement that'll happen at the end of the summer. So the hope is that we can get it done in time for this year's paving season. So that's our goal. But it's going to disrupt right here in front of City Hall for several weeks while we're doing that work. And then we don't have a date on here for bidding, but our next goal is to move on the 12th, what we're calling the 12th 13th, and Division Street Sanitary Sewer Improvement Project, which is another moratorium project. So that's right in the heat of design right now. So we're making good progress on those moratorium projects as well. So with that,
John,
that's all I have.
do the McLaughlin neighborhood projects address the whole thing, or are there additional parts in Rivercrest to end the moratorium? Since Rivercrest is also part of it.
Yeah, Holmes Lane, Rivercrest is what we're pretty much considering our third project.
Okay.
So we're talking with the consultant about scope of work. We do just trying to manage those in a way that doesn't get mismanaged, right? So
okay.
Once we get through at least a bid document for the 12th and 13th Street projects, then we're going to move right into design for that next phase for the Holmes Street area and some of those. So I'm trying to remember. I think there was something else I was going to mention.
Jesse, you've had your card up there for a while. Did you have?
Actually, 2 questions on the map, John. Forgive me, I'm not familiar with the watersheds up there, but I was curious. Is that south and east of Clackamas Community College? There is that Abernathy Creek watershed or Newell Creek, or is it just?
That's Caulfield. Let's see. You mean the
wetland
green
area
that goes through and under the new Myers Road extension?
Correct, that one.
Yeah, that's Caulfield Creek, and it goes essentially goes to the west, and if you follow South End Road all the way out to 99E out near on the Canby side, there's a creek right there. That's I believe that's a Caulfield right in there.
So okay.
It ties into the South End Creek, and I think they come together.
And Parrot Creek too, right? Is that that one?
I think so.
That's Parrot.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, so I was curious with the 2 roads that are proposed to go over it, both the Loder Road extension and the Myers Road extension. How are those going to be built over the wetland area? Is it going to be like big concrete posts, so there's an elevated like suspension, or is it going to be just kind of plowing through?
Well, yeah, that's yet to be determined, but I wouldn't envision a bridge section through there. It's more likely to be mitigated in some way.
So like a pipe culvert?
Right.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions for John right now? You got a question?
Well, I did, but I've never been to a meeting before.
Oh, just after you come up here and ask your question, and then when you're done, just so we need, or you can grab that mic right there, and then we'll need you to fill out a comment card just so we have a record of your name.
Okay.
But go up, please.
I'm Georgia, and I live in Tower Vista, I guess it is. But I just had a question because I'm like right at the corner of Myers and Leland. So when that road continued through, I imagine there would be more traffic. And you talked about bike lanes, but there's a section on Myers where the sidewalks stop and then comes to Claremont and Leland. Would those continue on? Would you put sidewalks in there when all this other work happens?
Well, let's be so. This drawing is not really near that area, so no. There's likely separate projects that would happen at different
Oh,
times.
so even it's Myers Connect, it won't have anything to
Isn't
do
that
with
part of
the
the
current
Leland Myers
Myers.
part?
Yeah, that's right. That's more of what some of the work that we approved through the Leland Lynn Myers Road corridor plan, which calls for sidewalks on both sides
Oh,
of the road.
so that will be,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
And that, you're right. That's on the website as well. Yes. You can look at that.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Georgia.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. Okay. Whew. Let's go quick. Laura, CIC goals.
Good evening. So it's time to do goals. So I've put together a draft of some preliminary goals just as a starting base, and you can add anything you want to add. In the list of goals, we cite the purpose of the CIC in our draft code language at the top of the screen there, so to encourage public participation and knowledge, things like that. So the goals are below it, and hopefully there's some relationship between the two there. This was just a first run at goals, and I'm hoping that you guys can add additional items to it. Then we'll take your items, and then we'll come back to you with what we think is an achievable work plan. So we'll have goals to adopt. So this is just more of a brain session where you can start citing things, and I will write them down as quickly as I can, and we'll add them to the list, and then come back and present something to you at a later date.
That was clear as mud to me.
Do you have any?
Draft goals are on the board. Tell us what you think, add more to them.
You're not talking about actually creating the plan, the public involvement plan, you're just
Talking about goals for 2015 to
goal to be
2017 for the CIC. So it's in conjunction with the City Commission goal session and budgeting. We kind of keep in mind that we don't have a whole lot of money to work with either. So what goals do we have for the city, for the CIC within the next 2 years? There's 6 on there, but it was just a starting place to get the juices flowing for you.
One of the things I think would be helpful, and, certain people have their backs to it, but if we understood what the city commission's goals were and tried to tag along with what they've got as their goals, looking here at goal 3, enhance the livability of the community. I think that's something that the CIC should be extremely involved in. I can't read all of the rest of them. Goal 4 certainly would be something that we should have a presence.
When we come back to you, we'll also have the City Commission goals so you can kind of see how they compare.
Well, I'm thinking that in order to formulate our goals, it would be wise for us to know what the city commission goals are. Because if our goals that we develop are contrary to their goals, we've wasted a lot of our time and their time.
We were just looking for a brain session list. We can come back if you want us to come back, and I can give you the City Commission goals at that time if you want.
That's just my opinion. Maybe others don't think that's important.
Laura, maybe you could just send an email of what their goals are, and we could always email you, to add to this.
I like it. Homework. Okay.
That way,
All right.
choose
So
your
I'll
goal and
Teacher's former job.
Perfect.
So by the end of the week, we'll send them the booklets for the adopted CIC goals. Hopefully you guys can have a chance to look at that, think about it, and we can start formulating a list for the next meeting.
Okay.
It might be helpful for us to share what we've already done to, as far as working with the community. For instance, going to OC together or going to a school opening. Commissioner Shaw was at that too. What is our current involvement as individuals of the CIC?
What public events does the CIC want to attend?
Is that part of this where we create the plan?
We can make it a
involvement
goal.
plan.
If just brainstorming here, so if we want to make it a goal to attend many public events, we can do that. Okay? And then, actually, at the end of this meeting, I will talk to you about a couple of the events, so we can get some volunteers lined up. So,
Karen?
Something to the effect of developing resources to maintain active neighborhood associations and help reactivate inactive neighborhood associations.
Yeah, Tony had talked about that, I remember. In the past, we said, well, how was it done? And we all try to remember. And yeah, it would be nice to have something, this is what you do, to help them keep going and
get going.
I think we should put that in there. I agree. Good thinking. Anybody else have any suggestions right off the bat? Okay, we'll continue on for.
You have your homework assignments.
all right, so I will send you an email with your homework tomorrow, and I look forward to hearing your results and then I'll come back to you at the next meeting.
Okay, draft amendments to the code. Did everyone have a chance to read through? They were asked, we asked them to bring it back to this meeting to hopefully get a final vote before they move it on to the next level. I did have one question. I thought I remembered in the process that after it went to City Commission and it went to the land use and it was going to come back here before it was read again, or before it went to code. Was that my just making that up, or was that?
I don't think that was the intent. I think what we're looking at is once we've got a consensus here, our attorney looks at it, it goes to Department of Land Conservation and Development Citizen Involvement Advisory Committee to show compliance with statewide planning goal 1, and then it would go before the City Commission for adoption.
But if there were any major changes or recommendations from
LCDC,
yeah, would it then come back?
At that point, we could certainly provide it to you, but we would continue to move forward to the City Commission for their
Okay.
approval. We would take the.
So we would need to go to the City Commission meeting if we had a concern.
So we'll
of
keep you in
any
the loop.
change.
I've talked to DLCD as well, and they didn't seem to have any major concerns.
We're not
Good.
anticipating anything.
Good.
They were
We've never
very
done this
happy with
before,
it.
so this is all new to us.
Yeah, so we wouldn't anticipate anything
Okay.
big there, but we'll keep you in the loop.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to do the shortcut again and get this thrown on the floor. I move that we adopt the, I don't want to say, amendments to the city code as distributed for tonight's meeting.
Second. Who said that?
Faith.
Faith, thank you. I heard this voice.
All
All right, discussion? Bob? And I would ask that we not rehash and rehash, so hopefully, yeah.
Well, several years ago, when I started observing the various boards, commissions, whatnot of Oregon City, I thought the CIC was a good committee to represent the citizens. I then started attending the meetings in person and was further impressed. When I got the opportunity to become a member, I was absolutely thrilled. The current actions of the city manager, the mayor, and the city commissioners has made it a mere shadow of its former self. There have been some accusations brought against the CIC which are untrue, but continue to hang out there. We've been accused of trying to organize as a de facto city commission. We've been accused of causing $10,000 in attorney fees in a situation that didn't even involve the CIC. It was said that the city could no longer get support for the CIC, and yet now we have a department director as well as a staff person and also the time of a city commissioner. There are several items we've lost because they're not in the proposed bylaws or have been amended beyond recognition. The chair no longer prepares the agenda. The new bylaws state the city liaison shall create and post the agenda. Since we no longer set our own agenda, we probably won't be able to choose our guest speakers. And also, there's no provision for the members of the CIC to provide input for the agenda. There is no wording allowing the alternate to participate in meetings. Special meetings can only be called by the city manager or his designee. The CIC no longer has the ability to remove members for any reason. That's to be done by the city commission. The voting section is very vague. Will we allow vote by proxy, absentee vote, vote by mail, electronic ballot, telephonic vote? There's no provision for an organized report on the neighborhood budgets. Public Works and the Chamber of Commerce are no longer listed as regular parts of the agenda. Not included in the proposed bylaws are public meeting, public records requirement statement, a non-discrimination statement, provisions on how the bylaws can be changed. Recently, the City Commission decided to give our monthly meeting a 6-month trial period as if we're a new employee on probation. It should be noted that we're still a council, and until the new code takes effect, and it should further be noted, You are still governed by the existing bylaws until the new code has gone through the entire process of approval. Considering all of which I've spoken, this will be the last meeting I attend as a CIC member. I've enjoyed my time on the council, and all of you have my utmost admiration and respect.
Any other comments? Okay,
I
so-
don't know that we are ready at this point. I really strongly feel that some of the things that, for example, Laura's LT1 comments here, we've not adopted those. They're suggested, but without adopting them as part of the process, inclusion is still there. There are several other things that, particularly in the membership area, we've discussed previously that, in some instances, it's important that business owners be involved in the neighborhood. In other neighborhoods, there's little or no need or involvement desired on the part of business owners. And in fact, in some neighborhoods, there are no businesses. If a property owner is living in Arizona, why are they potentially able to serve as a member of the CIC? I really don't think that by virtue of one's employment or property ownership should be qualifications for becoming members of the CIC. That's Section D under membership.
Okay, Tom, that's been explained before, that is governed by your neighborhood association bylaws.
That's not what
Your
this says.
Your neighborhood association will not be recommending someone who does not meet your bylaws. If your bylaws do not include property owners or business people, you wouldn't recommend them to the mayor for appointment, so that it's a moot subject.
Excuse me, Karen, but that is not what it says here.
Look at how the members are appointed.
Section B covers that.
Section D of this,
B under membership, right above where you were.
Right, each primary and alternate member appointed shall have first been nominated by the neighborhood association. So that does take care of that. I'd like to amend the motion that we accept it with the changes of the LT1, LT2, and LT3.
I accept that, Faith.
Any other discussion after that point?
She called the question.
Okay, so we'll go to vote.
Tony? Looks like he's absent. Mark?
No.
Linda?
Well, we've talked about this, and all the things are there.
Can we pass?
And come back?
Okay, come back, yeah. Mike?
We could confer.
We can confer, absolutely.
I have to abstain at this point because I'm not sure what we're voting on. Some of the LT comments are to delete highlighted sections, some of them are to add the highlighted section. I'm not sure what I'm voting on, so I have to abstain at this point.
All right. Amy?
I'll come back to me.
Do you want me to go through those comments? roughly
I think
before-
yeah, well, I mean, you can, but I thought it was pretty clear, but go ahead.
You want me to in the middle of it?
I think we can't right now.
We can't do it in the middle.
I think we just need to finish.
So Amy, come back to you. Kathy?
I have to abstain too.
Tom?
I'm not prepared to vote either until such time as we do clarify, because I agree with exactly what Mike says, that some are adding portions to this document, and some are deducting from. And to accept them in their totality doesn't make any sense.
If it says it's going to delete, it will delete. If it says it's going to add, it's going to add.
Joyce?
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but go to the comment on page 2. Suggestion to delete highlighted sentences if the CIC wishes to have both the primary and the alternate members participate at CIC meetings. So what do we wish? What is it?
That's what the wish was.
So is the blue part in or out?
In, if we pass it.
Suggestion to...
You delete, we delete the part that's actually in the left. And then later on it clarifies that this primary, so that they're, because this is, if we take that out, then we can have a primary and a alternate. And they both get to participate in the meeting, but only the primary will vote. So by deleting that, that's what it will allow.
And LT2 is a suggestion.
And the proposal, the motion is that would happen.
So just so you know where the comments came from, they came from the last CIC meeting, but they didn't make it in the last motion.
So basically, we're adopting those marginal comments. So the language is either added or deleted as per the marginal comment. Who's next?
Did we take the roll, or?
No, we were at Joyce.
Okay. Joyce?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Jesse?
Aye.
Bob?
No.
Barbara?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Gary?
No.
Brian?
No.
No. All right. And we skipped Linda?
Kanema votes no.
No. Dennis?
No.
Amy?
Yes.
You got 76 too?
6-3.
Who was the other abstention?
Tom, Kathy, and Mike. All right. So 7 A's, 6 nays, and 3 abstains.
Okay, so now interestingly, this is not a bylaw revision. This is a pure motion. So under our current bylaws, a simple majority should pass it.
All right. Motion passes. Great.
All right, sorry about the minutes at the last meeting. We hope we got things cleared up, but did anybody have anything that they noticed that they remember being on there that we
Did
didn't
we ever
get?
explain what happened?
Oh, what happened at the last meeting? Remember how we couldn't hear anything? You know, we had a terrible time hearing. Yeah, we'll come to find out that it wasn't recording that either. So there was a...
The computer was gone, the backup computer was gone.
Number of errors occurred in the background.
There was a series of
unfortunate events.
storm, yes. So we have backup plans and backup plans for the backup plans, so this never happens again. We're very sorry.
Actually, Laura, could the city also put a lip reader on contract, just in case?
It couldn't have come at a worse time when we were discussing if we should go away with the minutes.
Yeah.
And just rely on the recording minutes. Ugh, that kind of makes me say, no, I'm not going with that.
At the very least, we have 2 audio recorders that we would set up.
If we realized it wasn't recording. Yeah.
Correct.
All right, so no one could find anything, so I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. All right, Mark?
Yes.
Linda? Yes. Dennis?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Kathy?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Joyce?
Yes.
Faith?
Yes.
Jesse?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Brian?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I was scared Barbara was going to say no.
That was a nightmare.
Good sport, Barbara.
All right, round table. We're going to start on this end. But Jesse moved. I think he knew I was going to change it up this time.
All right, so since Rita's not here, this definitely falls to me. I was not at our last meeting. However, I know what was talked about. Yeah, so primarily Christina Robertson-Gardner was there to talk about historic review requirements and demolition and alterations, all the different historic review requirements. Next meeting, which is steering committee meeting this Thursday at 7 p.m. at the fire station, just a couple blocks away. Our primary event is going to be a neighborhood meeting, just like we had tonight, from the Willamette Falls Hospital. We consider this to be a big deal. They're planning to apply to expand the hospital across Division Street to the west. So they've never crossed Division, to my knowledge, so far. It's always been on the east side of Division. So it would involve taking out some old rental houses that I believe have been there a long time, that they already own, and building a new clinic as well. So if anyone's interested in the expansion of the hospital, come to the steering committee meeting this Thursday.
What time again?
7 p.m. And that's all I got.
All right. Faith?
Just real quickly, tomorrow night we have our steering committee meeting. We're at Mazat Lawn Restaurant. Dinner's at 6:30. The meeting's at 7. And we're going to be talking about our July 7th general meeting over there. So that's all I have.
Joyce?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Last Tuesday, I attended the Oregon City Together meeting, and this is a great group of people working with the young people in our community. And people, if you want to know more about it, please look them up. They were here at our last CIC meeting and made a presentation. So find them online, or there were some of us at that meeting, and please talk to us about what Oregon City Together is and what they're trying to do for our community. On last Friday, I attended the Construction Class Awards ceremony for Oregon City High School, which was held at the new stage that was built at the end of the Oregon Trail Interpretive Center, where we're going to be holding the summer concerts. The stage isn't completely finished yet. There's a little bit of work that the Parks Department's going to have to do to finish that up. But that's a wonderful ceremony, and congratulations to all those young men and women who have worked so hard on that and are going to be graduating this year. And Britt Tucker has one more year. There's a few more projects to do for Oregon City, and we hope that they're able to find a replacement for Britt to continue that into the future for our city. As Faith said, H&A meets tomorrow night at Mazat Lawn, if you want to come and join us. We're going to be planning our July general meeting, and I know for sure that we are going to be having an update at that meeting from the Newell Creek Canyon, from Metro, regarding Newell Creek Canyon. A lot of exciting things happening on that. So if you're more interested in that, please come to our Hillendale Neighborhood July general meeting, first Tuesday in July. And that's at Oregon City, what's that? Where do we hold? Living Hope Church, which is not in Hillendale neighborhood, but right across the street, because Hillendale has no churches or schools.
All right. Brian, did you have anything that you want to?
Yeah, I think, I don't know how many of you got to go down to the Legacy Project there at Blue Heron on Friday, but Governor Kate Brown was down there, and so was former Governor Barbara Roberts and Vern Duncan. There was a lot of really dignitaries down there for they were visiting, and we're asking for funds for the Riverwalk project. And that was great ceremony. The city staff and just did a great job putting that together and stuff. And they got a tour of the project down there and got right out to the falls. And it was a beautiful day to do that. Thank God Katie gave me some sunscreen. And, so she took care of me down there. So, and the mayor got his Dr. Pepper, so that was good too. So, and there was a presentation. I'm gonna let Tony take it from there about what actually happened down there too. So.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Yeah, so on Friday, we were Representative Barton was able to line up Governor Kate Brown to come out to the site. The Friday before, we were down in the legislature requesting an additional $10 million for the later phases of the Riverwalk. We also, the governor announced, we may recall, we did a nationwide search for a design team to do the Riverwalk design and engineering work. There were 14 submittals. We narrowed it down to 3. And then she announced the winning consultant team, which was made up of Mayor Reed, Snellhetta, and Dialogue. So we're very excited to get them under contract here in the next month or two and begin that public engagement and design process. So continue to move that project forward. And we'll see how we do with the legislature as we kind of wrap up the legislative season here in the next 30 days or so.
Thank you. John, did you have anything else to add?
Huh?
Okay. Tom?
Pass.
Yeah, we know you're good. Barbara?
Well, I went to the OC Together meeting as well, and I signed up the CIC to represent 2 booths this summer, one being the National Night Out. They need help there, and the other one, the health fair in November, October, September 12th. I had it on the
Laura
other
will
side.
be talking to them.
Yeah. I also visited the Clackamas Academy of Industrial Sciences high school. My grandson attends there, but it is just a really wonderful school. The reason I went there is for my grandson, but also for the person that the school was named for, Mr. Beery, who worked for Benchmade Knives, and they were really the promoters of that school, and Mike was in particular. So the school is named for him. It actually has his name on it. It was very moving for us. Back to the Oregon City Together. Another way that we can make a difference is, for instance, I invited my pastor to come to this meeting because we're very concerned about youth and the things they're exposed to, and some of the reports that I had heard in 8th grade, which was kind of shocking to me, that kids would be selling and buying drugs in 8th grade at school. So we really do have to pay attention and reactivate these kids into positive things, find positive things for them to do. If they have no parents at home, or there's nobody there at least when they get home, there's no end to what they could be exposed to or be convinced to join. So having other things to do is really good. What else? So if you would be interested in helping this Oregon City booth at either one of those events, either in August or September, please let me know so I can...
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Laura's got some
Okay. Let's see. I think that, yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
I went to the Chiefs Advisory meeting, and I recognized that there were people there from some of the neighborhoods, but there weren't representatives from all, and that's something I would highly encourage that we encourage. It is a great meeting because it's one-on-one with the chief of police, and he just tells you how it is, and you get information you don't hear anywhere else. And I think it's very worthwhile, information that we can then pass on to our neighbors, so I would highly encourage getting somebody from your neighborhood to go to that. It doesn't have to be the chair, it can just be anybody. And a lot of the neighborhoods have somebody that and they meet once a month, but not during the summer. I think it's once a month. Maybe it's every other. I don't remember exactly, but
Every other.
every other, yeah. I finally had somebody else that does that for me, but she was out of town, so I went. But it's a great meeting. And we didn't have anything going on in Gaffney Lane right now.
That's good. Rivercrest, our next general membership meeting is Thursday, June 18th. And I forgot to ask Karis if we had anything on the agenda yet. There wasn't anything at the steering committee meeting. So, and we did really well on our annual plant sale. That's our big fundraiser for our neighborhood, which pays for our barbecue in August.
Okay, Bob?
At our next steering committee meeting, we have a representative from Icon Construction presenting their case for a 10-lot subdivision in Park Place. So your Laura's presentation this evening was quite timely, so we'll be going through that exercise. We've gone through it several times in the last couple of years, lots of action in Park Place.
Yeah.
I come with...
When is that meeting? Sorry.
Steering committee
When?
meeting, Bob. When is
I'm not sure what the date is.
Oh, okay.
Third Monday.
Third Monday?
Okay. I come on bended knees and begging. A couple of years ago, Tom O'Brien managed to overspend his budget that the city gives us for some signs he had made, and came begging to the rest of the neighborhood associations for money to make it up to him, and I did the same thing. However, I overspent our yearly budget by $80.63 for our neighborhood association notifications. I found out I've been looking at the wrong schedule. So I'm begging somebody from another neighborhood that has lots of money left over to loan Park Place $80.63.
We don't need to make a formal motion, but we can just do a raise of hand if we can take that money and give that to Bob. Everyone in favor, if you just raise your hand.
Take it out of August.
Yeah, well,
Or just take it.
at the end, any that's left over from any of the neighborhoods would get applied to that. So, all in favor of...
You could throw South End into that, too, because we're $50 over.
All right, all in favor of Bob and Bill.
I agree with
Oops.
covering the overspenders at the end of the year with what's
Any
left
opposed?
over.
Mark? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Bill?
Nothing really to report. We just had our June meeting a couple weeks ago, and that went okay. And then our next meeting is in August. Looks like the 20th for our annual. I'm sorry, yeah, it is August 20th for our annual barbecue out in the park. So
When is your
look
next South End cleanup? Just curious.
It'll be in June. It might be on the 13th.
Okay. I just drove it down it today and just was wondering. There was some weird looking stuff.
Looks like somebody walked up and picked up a lot of the stuff on the bottom down there, because there was other, but up on top there's it's still messy.
Yeah, there was some weird looking things. I didn't know what they were. I was curious. I want to know what it is when you do pick it up. Mark? Oh, sorry, Gary.
Well, that was all, and we'll have show and tell maybe next time.
No vodka bottles, please. Mark?
I haven't been sent any new information, so I have nothing to add.
Okay. Dennis?
Yes, we had a steering committee meeting recently, and we're really enjoying this new phase. We're trying to use the availability of all the taverns in the Main Street area. So we pop around and we sample the goods. And anyway, so as a result of this last steering committee meeting, we have set the date for the next meeting to be June 18th. Also, the leadership within Kenema decided to, on a short notice, to adopt a chance to clean up the streets, the neighborhood, and we launched the three of us to get out, and in a section between Kenema and the Stillhouse, we canvassed both sides and gathered up a number of bags and let it pile, and then it got picked up by the Public Works, and I think we're going to try and initiate that on a more regular basis and seek out more neighborhood involvement. But actually, it doesn't take a lot of time, and it goes very quick, and you feel better for having done it. And then just as a result of the conversation that was brought about by Bob, I guess if we look at the stats, we're in the rears too, so we're worried about the mailing in June. Linda and I are just talking about that. So just as a question, but maybe not a retort, is that so if we go ahead and we sort of launch a mailer and for the June meeting, the 18th, we will not have sufficient funds to make that happen. So do we do it, go over budget, and then ask in a plea form for
No, I would ask right now. Just
how do we do this?
How much is a postcard mailing for your neighborhood?
$74, and we have $34.88.
Okay. So all in favor of allowing that additional funds?
As long as we haven't spent it
Thank
all.
you very much.
Any opposed?
I'm assuming we have the funds for
We're going to have to
covering
go.
all these overages.
Yes, we do.
Okay, good.
They're not very much, so.
That's
We will be discussing this coming up, but we really need to, this year's been a weird year, and with all the changes going on in the CIC neighborhood, it seems like there hasn't, some of the neighborhoods have not done mailings, and there were some problems with the changeovers. It's staffing too, so, but this is something that we'll really watch, we need to watch more carefully as we go into the next biennium.
And Katie Durfee will continue to be your contact for anything budget related.
Right. Linda?
We're going to have our next meeting June 18th, and we'll be at the Methodist Church.
So, you said steering committee June 18th, is that a?
We had a steering committee.
Oh, you had your
We
steering,
decided
this is a
meeting would be
regular.
the 18th.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Kathy?
Nothing.
Brian?
Yeah, we will have a meeting in 7 or 8 weeks. Nothing's really planned yet. I also attended the Oregon City Together meeting, but after that I attended another one, which most of you probably haven't heard about, which is Oregon City Parks Foundation, which now has a Facebook page, and there was a number of high-powered and knowledgeable people present, including Brian Shaw and one other city commissioner.
Rocky.
Yeah, I couldn't remember his name. And a lot of ideas were flown, and we'll see what works. But there was people with financial development abilities, as well as dealing with volunteers and being effective with that side of things. So seeing how the Parks Commission committee, or not committee, but department is minimally funded, let's say, this could be a big help for the city of Oregon City. And it's just in its starting phases. This was really the founding meeting. So expect more news on that in the near future. And if anyone's interested, either contact me, since you probably know my name and number here, and I can get you in touch with the proper people.
And Brian, we probably recognize that Mike Mitchell has volunteered to chair that committee too, so that's pretty cool. Yeah.
That's a good thing. So.
Okay, can you pass Mike, is that, sorry, I don't want to cut you off there. Send Mike the mic.
No, I'm done.
Just to spin off on what Brian just mentioned, there was a meeting last week of a group of about 15 individuals interested in starting a nonprofit 501c3 foundation to support our park system. Our next meeting for that, it was a very great meeting. I want to appreciate in particular Commissioner Shaw for being at that meeting, and Commissioner Smith. It's nice to know that their involvement. Joyce was there, Brian was there, Dennis was there, Tom was there, and all volunteered to help on our steering committee. I will tell you, our next meeting is next Monday night at 7 o'clock. That's Monday the 8th at 7 o'clock at the Pioneer Center in one of the classrooms on the main floor. I'm not sure exactly which one, but we'll put a sign up. And our goal coming out of that meeting will be to have a mission statement written for the organization. And as we're working on that process and then moving on to bylaws, at the same time we'll be going through the fairly simple state hoops and very complicated IRS hoops to getting 501c3 status. So that's that. And then two things from the board of or the executive committee of the Caulfield Neighborhood Association. First relates to the City Matters article that Mayor Holliday wrote in the Summer Trail News, if you haven't seen that, it refers to local control of the Tri-City Service District, the sewer district, which is controlled by the county, even though, and then there's no one actively involved in managing that organization from the city of Oregon City or Gladstone or West Lynn, even though we're the ones affected. So the request from the Caulfield Board is there a role for the CIC or a role for the neighborhood associations to try to crank up the pressure on the county to rectify that situation? So that's just for your consideration later. And the other thing, John touched on it in his presentation, but I was asked to reiterate the serious concern from the Caulfield neighbors about the completion of the school district bus barn and that extra traffic without having the full extension of Myers Road. So, I know money is tight, but there's a serious concern in the community with all the traffic that's already there with the high school and the apartment complex that's right across the street, and now the addition of the bus traffic and the people that work there. Without that Myers Road extension, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the neighborhood. So, that's
Mike,
it.
I was surprised. I actually attended the planning commission meeting that it was presented at, and there was not representation from Caulfield there. And so, just like we learned tonight, this is during the process where you get your word in. So, I was very surprised that there wasn't anybody there. It was continued, so you'll have
A week from today.
Yeah, so you have that opportunity. I would pass that along because this is the time for them to get their say in. Because I brought that up as the neighboring Gaffney Lane concern because that would dump traffic in, and we're right there on the border, and it does affect us now because that's where Glen Oak and Caulfield meet, which is both of our neighborhoods.
Mhm.
And so their traffic study information you will want to look at. It was very interesting. So. But yeah, so remember, people, when we get these land use, there is a process, and we need to get involved. I'm excited to learn more about it because I think that's something that we'll be moving forward to know. Okay, Laura.
City business? All right. The Natural Resource Committee is working on an informational brochure for homeowners on how they can help restore habitat and fish wildlife in streams near their homes. So they wanted to convey that to you. Also, I know you were waiting. The sign code was adopted, and it will be effective November 1st. And so it's not effective for a while. And that while, we're going to take our time and do a large educational outreach, which means we're coming back to you to give you more information about what the sign code is before it gets adopted. So you'll know a little bit more about our standards. Although our code is fun to read, we can sort of translate it a little bit as well.
So fun.
Yeah, see? Then I have a couple of questions and business for you regarding CIC. So the next meeting, which is the first Monday in July, would be July 6th, which would be the Monday after the 4th of July holiday. So the question is if we want to meet on Monday, July 6th or not. I have sort of the schedule of the dates that we're going to meet. So the first Monday of every month works for every month except September, where we have Labor Day. So September will be canceled. The question is if we also want to cancel or have July 6th meeting.
What is on the current proposed agenda? Do you have one of what was going to be?
If we were going to have the meeting, the hospital wanted to come and talk to you as electively to tell you about their project. And then we'd still be working on, so we would do the educational, depending on how busy our schedule is, about the land use process and what happens after someone submits.
Could they come in August?
I mean, they're having their neighborhood association meeting separate, so they're coming to you in addition to it. So it's not a legal requirement.
just if they were. No, obviously.
Yeah. So
I don't know about other people's schedules, but if you work for the city or the county, you're going to get Friday off for the holiday.
Correct.
So I'm not sure what the problem is with Monday.
Is everyone going to be back by Monday?
Jesse, can you grab the mic?
Sure thing. So regarding the hospital, I know they're kind of in a hurry. We requested that they postpone and come to our general meeting in July, but they really wanted to come in June. So I wouldn't think they'd want to postpone just to talk to the CIC. So if we want to hear from them, my conjecture is they need to be next month.
Okay.
They'll also go before the Planning Commission to amend their master plan, so it'll be a while before they're actually sitting before the planning commission.
I personally will be out of town, but I think we could just take a raise of hands. Sometimes in the summer, in the past, we have waived one of the meetings. We obviously don't have to. But so those that would like to have a July meeting, if you would raise your hand. Those that would like to
Somebody wants vacation.
cancel the July meeting, raise your hand.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
So
you.
we'll cancel. The next meeting will then be August 3rd. I'll post something online and send an email out as well. The next is about the safety fair and the National Night Out. So we've signed up for the safety fair, which is September 19th, and then also we'll be attending as a group, CIC, the National Night Out, which is Tuesday, August 4th. So who would like to help volunteer at these booths? If we could just get a raise of hands, and I can sort of contact you afterwards.
First, I'd like to ask if there's somebody, let's start with the first one, which is the National Night Out. Is there someone who's willing to be the point person there the entire time? We looked up the time. It was 5:30 to 8:30, but I imagine there'll be something a little bit before that to set up. So I plan to be there, but I'd rather not. You'll be there? Okay. Is anyone else able to be there? Linda? Okay.
You said yes, Linda?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So
And Laura's going to look into having a canopy and tables dropped off for us, and we'll coordinate. But would one of you be willing to take lead on making sure we have our flyers and posters
I'll
and
take the lead on the health fair. I've done it the last 2
on the
years.
Saturday one?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you wanna
So I
take
guess that
national
Can you
night.
do?
I am, yeah.
Can you do that? Okay.
Come on.
We'll
I
work
am,
together.
yeah.
It's not
Okay,
hard,
fine.
but
It's
Sure.
fun to do.
oh, it's great time there. It's just I don't know if we're going to have to.
I was there last year.
Last year for the safety fair, I just came down here early and picked up the easel and the poster board and the flyer. So whether or
Yeah,
not
I
that's
picked
there,
up the
and we
big
can
map
talk.
that you had, yeah.
One thing I'd like to ask, we did find, I haven't been to National Night Out, so, but we did find at the safety fair, we last year had someone donate a bag of suckers. Thank you, Gary. And that was a huge hit for the kids. It's nice to have something to hand out, so I don't know if that can be in the budget, taken from the budget, or if we need to,
we'll take a look.
okay. Not very expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
just something little.
Okay.
I don't know about National Night Out, if the booth had
Safety
something to.
Fair will have 10 times as many people. I mean, at the National Night Out would have a lot more people than
Okay.
the Safety Fair.
And did people hand things out at the National Night Out? I haven't been to
We
one.
did a stamp. There was a stamp that people had to go around
People
and get their
had to
cards
get their hand
stamped,
stamped.
and then they got a free hot dog or something.
Oh,
that got
into the raffle?
everyone-
It was a passport that
A
they
passport,
stamped.
yeah.
Okay, so we don't need to have something that night.
No,
Yeah.
because there's
Okay.
an encouragement to do that, and then when they get it all
Okay.
filled, then they get some.
All right, so
prize.
we'll just look at that for the safety.
So it's safety.
Okay.
fair, yeah.
All right, then for the safety fair, I know that Faith and I are planning to be there. That's Saturday, the 19th of September, from 9 to 2, I believe is
And
the
that's
time.
fun too.
It's
And that's
blast.
mostly local people. I mean, really. more people
And
than
Brandon
National Night Out.
and I know that at National Night Out, it was also a problem at the safety fair, and they're going to work on having signage at both ends that has a list of events and times. So, like at National Night Out, if they decide to have the K-9 unit do a demonstration, that'll be posted. They're trying to get a good PA system so that if people are, I mean, you're in your booth and then they're trying to have it set up that you can kind of see. So, is anybody else able to go that night and help? It's nice to have more than 2 people there.
And National Night Out?
Yeah.
I'll be there.
We'll be
I'm
there
just
for
not
our
sure I
booth.
don't have another booth.
Okay, so
I
put
can help
Karen
with
as
the
a
setup and
maybe.
tear down.
Can anybody else come? Come on, guys, this is our chance, this is our goal.
I'll be there to help.
Okay, Joyce?
The safety fair?
Gary?
I'll hang out.
At the National Night Out.
National Night Out.
That's the one I'm most concerned about because that'll be the night before our we'll have a meeting just the night before, so.
Okay.
So look at your calendars and if you can come to the August meeting ready to commit to come help.
Yeah, just stay for an hour.
Because it's nice to have, if you can't come the whole time,
You can
maybe
just
we
break
can
us.
work out maybe if you can put together a time for the National Night Out I guess that would be too soon, but, because it was nice, I think Tom, you came for a little while and last year, didn't you?
People break.
I worked the coloring booth for 3 or 4 years. Whole night.
I got it last year.
I came to the safety fair last year.
Yeah, that's what I meant, the safety fair.
Oh.
Yeah, the safety fair. It's nice to have more people, and like I said, I don't know how National Night Out was too, because if you get involved in talking to somebody, you need more runners to, hey, where do you live? Come show us on the map. It's a lot
And
of
we do
fun.
have a nice laminated map.
Mhm.
We do, okay.
Yeah. And again, we'll tally. I think we'll do that how we did we just ask which neighborhood are they in. They come and figure it out, and we tally. It's fun to keep
Well,
it.
there's no point, because Hillendale always wins.
I don't know, because the National Night Out will be in somebody else's neighborhood.
That's true.
Whose neighborhood is that? Is that
The
Rivercrest?
safety fair last year, Kanema had 0. So we hope
I
they'll
know.
improve on that this year.
Yeah, Kanema has 0.
Zero.
We that far up? Will work.
Yeah, I think we even had a Two Rivers, didn't we? If I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
2 of them.
Yeah, we had a couple.
All right.
I'll send out more information before those occur. That's all I have.
Okay, anything else before?
Anybody want to help with Oregon City Together?
Did you want to say what you're going to be doing?
What are they asking for?
Somebody like we just talked about. Where's my card?
We'll let Commissioner Shaw speak while I'm getting some information here in my other ear.
Chair Willett, I just want to recognize Bob LaSalle for his time on the CIC, and I'm sorry to see you go, Bob. And but on behalf of the commission, thank you for your time. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. There's a question about the OC Together. Barbara, did you want to?
Yeah, they would appreciate more input from the community, because the community spreads the word. And when you hear, and they'll have flyers and things like that at their booths to educate parents, grandparents, anybody, of the issues with this drug situation. And now it's with drugs being legalized, they'll be legally in the home. And that's going to expose more kids to more drugs.
Right. So you can go to their website, and there's contact information on there. Mike?
I'm sorry, I forgot one thing, and I just realized I probably should have brought it up. At last week's PRAC meeting, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, there was a fairly lively discussion concerning the location and materials of the playground that's going to have to be relocated and reconfigured at Carnegie Park because of the library expansion. Discussion over height of equipment, plastic or metal, those sorts of things. And as I said, it was a lively discussion. I was on PRAC for 4 years, and then nothing ever that lively ever happened in 4 years. So anyway, if you are interested, the next PRAC meeting, and I apologize, I don't know what that date is, but their next meeting, staff was asked to come back with research, state of the best practices kind of research, and the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association was asked to come back with some of their priorities, given the physical size of the space and budget constraints and so forth. So if you're interested in how that playground might turn out, the next PRAC meeting would be a place to express your opinion.
Thank you. And I, too, would like to thank Bob and let him know he's always welcome, and if I can change his mind, I will gladly talk to you at any time. Joyce?
The next PRAC meeting is June 25th, right here in this, in these chambers. And I am on PRAC, so if you have any questions, you can contact me. My email is with your email that I'll get sent around, joyce@smallflags.com. And if you want to see that lively discussion, that is online on the city's website.
There we go.
It has audio, too.